Hi, my name's Tiffany, and today I'm going to be talking about viruses. So I'm just going to go over what a virus is and then the life cycle of a virus. So just how it replicates and multiplies itself and goes on to infect more things. Okay, so first the definition of a virus. It is a non-living obligate intracellular parasite. And so parasites, they're going to do harm to whatever they're attached to. It's non-living. Obligate means mandatory, so it must be. And then intracellular, intra means within, and then cellular refers to a cell. So it must be in a cell to replicate and multiply itself and then go on and infect more things. Okay, so now that we know the definition of a virus, we are going to talk about the structure of it. So a virus is mainly composed of two parts. First, you're going to need the genetic information, which is this little squiggly thing. That's going to carry the whole identity of the virus, and it allows it to make more of itself. And that can be DNA or RNA. And then around that genetic information, you're going to want some kind of shell to hold it in. And that's going to be a capsid. And a capsid is just a protein shell that surrounds the DNA or RNA. Okay, so now that we've talked about the definition of a virus, the structure, and what composes a virus, we're going to talk about something called host range. So we said that viruses are obligate intracellular, so they must be within a cell to multiply themselves. But viruses have something called host range, and that just means that there's only a certain range of other organisms that they can infect, and that depends on these little structures on the virus and the proteins on the cells. So if you look here, there are little triangles on the legs of this virus, and over here on this cell, it has receptors that can fit triangles. So this virus can infect this cell, but on this cell, there's little half moon receptors, and so these little triangles are not going to fit onto these receptors, and so this virus can only infect this cell. It cannot infect this cell. So for example, plant viruses cannot infect humans. Okay, so you can have two different kinds of viruses. You can have temperate viruses or virulent. Virulent viruses will undergo a lytic life cycle, and that just means it's going to attack a host cell, replicate, and then release itself. Whereas temperate viruses will undergo a lysogenic cycle, and that's where it can infect a host cell, but it will remain dormant, so it can go hidden for a while. I'm going to go very more in depth into the lytic life cycle of virulent viruses. So there's 5 overall steps. We have attachment, penetration, synthesis, self-assembly, and release. Okay, so I'm really big on the definition of words so we understand what's going on. We said that virulent viruses, in their life cycle, after they replicate, they're going to destroy the host cell. So the lytic cycle, that's exactly what it means. Lysis means to burst or to destroy, and so that's why it's called the lytic cycle. The virus, once it replicates, is going to destroy the cell at the end. Okay, so the first step in the lytic life cycle is attachment, and going back to the idea of specificity, these specific structures on the virus will only match up with these specific receptors on this cell. So to start, the virus is going to attach to the host cell that it's going to infect. So now that we've attached, the next step is going to be penetration. So this is just when the virus is entering the host cell, and this can happen 2 ways. Either the virus is just going to inject its genetic information, so the DNA or RNA, into the host cell, because that's the identity like we said, and that's what we want to replicate. So either you can inject just that, or the entire virus is going to enter the host cell. Okay, so now that the virus is in the host cell, we're going to have the next step, and it's called synthesis. And so the virus is just kind of replicate, make more of itself, and so that it can go on and spread and infect more cells. And so in the host cell has its own DNA, its own genetic information that it's able to copy and pass on to its offspring. But once the virus enters the host cell, it's going to hijack the machinery that copies that DNA and stop making that, and it's going to start making the virus DNA. Okay, so like I said, the virus has taken over this host cell, and now it's completely making more of the virus, and it's not making anything else for the host cell. So the next step is going to be self-assembly, and this is where the different parts that have been replicated are just going to combine. So the genetic information and then that protein shell that holds it are going to combine. So there's the protein shell, the capsid, there's the genetic information, DNA or RNA, and then they're going to combine and make mature viruses. Okay, so now that we have multiple copies of our mature viruses, the last step is going to be release, and this is where the host cell is going to be destroyed. So the viruses have been copied, and they're going to start attacking the cell membrane of that host cell, and when they attack, it's going to lyse. Like I said before, lyse means to burst, and it's going to bust open that cell and release several viruses so that they can go on and infect other cells. Okay, so that was the lytic life cycle of a virulent virus. We have attachment, it attaches to the host cell. Penetration is entering it. Synthesis is when we are replicating more of the virus. Self-assembly is when those parts come together and we have new viruses. And then release is when we destroy it. So just to put this into some context, if a virus is to enter me and then it starts attacking my throat cells and it starts destroying my throat cells, that's why I have a sore throat. So I hope this helped and you learned something about viruses.